All right, so we're transitioning to another image, and we're going to work with locks, unlocks, background layers, selecting, and try to define a few more things. So this image is called ducky.tiff. It will be supplied to you so that you can follow along with this image. First thing is, let's do some navigation. If I click on my magnifying glass, I can set this image to 100%. I can set to fit screen, or fill screen. All right. I can also hit Command or Control minus to zoom out, and Control or Command plus to zoom in. So I want it to fit neatly on the screen. The next thing I want to talk about is the idea of the layer being called a background layer. Okay, so when you bring in a document and it's got an image on the page, it will often have this configuration with its same background. What that simply means is that the content cannot be moved. I can always make a selection, I can always paint on the layer, but I cannot move it. The idea being is that the bottom layer is the background, and that you don't want to accidentally move that layer. Now, what does that mean? Well, if I grab my selection tool, I can make a selection. If I grab my paintbrush, I can paint on the canvas. But what I can't do is move the content of the layer. If I grab my move tool, click on the layer and drag, it won't let me. It says the currently selected layer is a background layer. You cannot move a background layer or change its stacking order, blending mode, or opacity. So the idea is those elements are locked. However, you can convert it to a normal layer and then change any of these attributes should you decide to. So anytime I want, I can convert a normal layer to a background layer by dragging on it and then going to this command and choosing convert to normal layer, or cancel by clicking on the little lock and unlocking it. So if I unlock it, how do I lock it back? I go up to select. I go to layer, I go to new, and I choose background from layer, and it will lock the layer back. That's how I lock and unlock the background layer. Now, what does it mean when the layer is locked and when it's unlocked? Well, one, we've already demonstrated that when the background, the idea being that that bottom layer is not going to be able to be moved, and there's certain characteristics that I cannot do. The idea is that that bottom layer is going to be static, and I can build other things on top of it. It also means other things as well. So let's take a second and let's go over and let's grab, for instance, the magic wand tool. And what I want to do is I want to edit the background of this document. So I'm going to click into the background and make a selection. And now that I've done that, I can grab my paintbrush, I can choose a color, and I can fill that background without editing the duck. And that's why we make selections. I'm going to step backwards, Control Z. I'm going to turn off the selection, right? I'm going to grab the magic wand tool. I'm going to click again in the background, and the magic wand selection has made a nice clean selection because all the background is white, and the ducky doesn't touch any of the edges. So it's contiguously made a selection all the way around the whole duck. In addition to filling the background that way, I could go over and I could grab my paint bucket. I could choose a color with my paint bucket, whatever color I want, and then I could click and dump and make the fill of the background like so. I'm going to step backwards, Control Z or Command Z, and undo that. All right, so that's why I make a selection. Now, if I cut from this bottom layer with the background layer locked, it replaces it with whatever color is loaded into the background color swatch. So right now, in the background color swatch is loaded blue. If I make my selection, let's say I arbitrarily grab my rectangular marquee tool and I make a box over this image, and I choose Edit, Cut, you'll see that it replaces it with the background color. right? Now that's different. Let's undo that. And I'm going to unlock the background. And then I'm going to go up to edit and choose cut. And you'll see now it's replaced with transparent pixels. So those are the properties of a background layer, whether it's locked or whether it is a background layer. And what happens when I cut from that background layer, if it is locked, is that the content is replaced by a transparent, by the background swatch. And if the background layer is unlocked, then it's I'm cutting from it and getting transparent pixels. That transparent pixels mean that there's nothing in there. So I can use these tactics to do different things. I'm going to lock the layer back, go to layer, new, background from layer, it's back to lock. I'm going to grab my magic wand tool. I'm going to click into the image. And what I want to do is I want to separate the duck from the background. So one of the things you'll often do is isolate different image pixels. So what I want to do is take this selection and invert it. So I'm going to go to select and I'm going to choose inverse. So what that does is it takes whatever is selected and flips it. So now if I go up to edit, I can choose cut, and I've cut the duck away from the background. I'm going to go up to edit and I can choose paste, and I've pasted the duck into a new layer, right? So now I can grab my move tool and I can move the duck, and I can work on the duck separately from the background. So let's say I want to go down to this background layer and I want to fill it. Let's turn off the top layer. Let's make the bottom layer selected and visible. If I grab my fill bucket and I click to fill it, you'll see that there's this kind of residue out here on the edges of the selection. I'm going to undo that, right? So there's another way to fill, and that's using the menu. I go to edit and I choose fill. And so what this does is it does a dump. It's just going to dump over the whole layer. Whatever's in the layer is going to just be dumped. And when I fill, I have a bunch of options. I can fill the foreground color, background color, color, pattern, history, black, 50% gray, white. Let's look at foreground color. So whatever color is in the foreground is going to be filled. I'm going to click OK, and I filled that region. Okay. Let's look at some of the other options for that fill. I'm going to grab the rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to make a box over this image like so. I'm going to go back up to edit. I'm going to choose fill, and I'm going to look at the next option, background color. So I click on that, click OK. It's going to fill it with the background color, whatever color is in the background. I'm going to deselect the selection by clicking in no man's land. I'm going to grab the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to make another box inside of that box. And let's look at the next option. We're going to go to edit. We're going to go to fill. And the next one down is color. So what this does is it brings up the color picker and allows you to pick any color you want. And then when I click OK, it will fill with that color, whatever color I've chosen. Let's go up to select and choose deselect. Let's grab that rectangular marquee tool. Let's make another box inside of that box. And let's go back up to edit and let's choose fill again. And we use color, we use background color, we use color. We have something called content aware. We'll come to that later. Let's go down to pattern. So what this allows me to do is to fill this region with a pattern. Now be aware of the fact that these patterns that are in here are really just placeholders. Really what Photoshop will want you to do is to create your own patterns. So I'm going to click on this one pattern. I'm going to click OK, and I've now filled that region with the pattern. I'm going to go to select and choose deselect. Let's make another selection inside of that selection, and let's fill that with something as well. Let's go to edit, let's go to fill, and from pattern, we're going to go down to history. So history will fill with previous versions of your history. We haven't gotten into history yet. So let's skip over that one. Let's go to black. So that's going to fill this area with black. Okay, there we go. Let's go back up and let's do the next one. Let's go to fill. Let's go down to 50% gray. Click OK. It's going to fill it with gray. Let's go to edit. Let's go to fill. And let's go down to white. And it's going to fill it with white. Let's go to select and choose deselect. So So those are my options, or most of the options for fill. So fill is going to do a dump. Lots of times it's preferable to using the fill bucket, because the fill bucket will go up to an area, and then when the color is different, it'll stop filling. All right, now let's stop here, and in the next exercise, we're going to work with the ducky.